FCS fans nation, from the plains and windy cold of North and South Dakota to the beautiful beaches of Galveston, Texas, from Houston's heat all the way to Montana's beautiful skies and the amazing scenery of Virginia. You are live on a Megalive episode on the Fans Nation Network, and now hosted by the Rev. Let's get this Megalive unscripted beer drinking show rocking and rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rev.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, any holiday you celebrate. We're glad to have you here. We are, 11 days away from crowning a new national champion, and as is tradition, it is time for the biggest show that we have this season, the FCS Megalive. We got some very special guests tonight. I'm going to go around. Let's see. We got Zach McKinnell up at the top right. I usually save the best for last, but I thought we'd lead with our best foot this time. So, Zach, glad we have you here. Bottom right, you've got Mr. Matthew Frazee, the man, the myth, the very biased admin. Don't let him lie to you. We got Chad Myros down at the bottom middle. Got the Taco King himself coming from somewhere in a vague area between North Dakota and Canada. Taco King, good to see you. And last but not least, we got Samuel Aiken from Skyline Sports, overall badass. Gentlemen, welcome to the Megalive. Glad to have you here. Thanks for coming on. And cheers to y'all. It's a little bottle of champagne right now. We'll have bigger ones in Frisco.
Boom. Thanks for having us, Rev.
Dom, that's small.
What?
Is that Dom? Do they sell Dom that small?
Man, I can't afford Dom, okay? Like, I have to get the bad year Dom. I
just figured if it was that small, maybe one of us could afford it. You know?
Nah, not the way this year went. But no, this I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to get copyright, but it's a very nice bottle you can find at your local grocery store. So anyways, like we said, this is very, very, very unscripted. We will talk Frisco. We will talk playoffs. We'll talk about the other news that's going on. We might talk about why A Christmas Story is the most overrated movie of all time. And plus, your comments help drive the content. I'm sorry, did I already trigger somebody?
How dare you, Rev?
I mean, it's okay. I didn't like it until a few years ago. A Christmas Story Christmas is a good throwback to it, though. I feel like that one's underrated.
I will say
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the map that's behind all of us, and
he's going to ask, when are we talking about football?
No, I just have one question. I know the Cats won Cat Grizz, but it seems that you guys are trying to evenly spread the states out for all the teams, and it seems like the Grizz have a small fraction of Montana. I don't know what's up with that, man.
Actually, so I'll tell you about this map.
They got that middle part too.
Yeah,
Sam, I'd love for this whole thing to just go on for like 5 minutes and just bask in it. But you know that intro that was that lame and thrown together that quickly when we first did a Megalive 2 years ago, and we've just never changed it.
Mm-hmm.
I snapshotted. This is like week 3 imperialism off of Twitter. And I just threw it on the background.
And this one's pretty old because Kennesaw State is still hanging around, and we know they have
There's also Lenore Ryan somewhere in the Northeast who's D2. So I don't know who got beat that year, but someone lost to Lenore Ryan.
That's gonna be Delaware State.
Probably, yeah. That's a
Speaking
good point.
of Delaware State, what a nice segue. Thanks, Zach, for setting that up.
E-Jack!
Yeah, so apparently the MEAC is now becoming the home of former Philadelphia Eagles players, with Michael Vick going to Norfolk State, but now Delaware State announcing they're going to offer up Deshaun Jackson as their coach. Zach, you cover the HBCUs the most out of all of us here. What are your thoughts on what the MEAC's doing?
I mean, listen, I thought Michael Vick to Norfolk was just the easiest decision of the offseason. I mean, he's from the area. That guy can go recruit any high school in the Tidewater area and get whatever player he wants out of there. And Norfolk really had nothing to lose, man. They have a big stadium, a good fan base. They just need something to reinvigorate them. I think it's important, though, for Vic to surround himself with some experienced coaching. I'll be honest, though, the D-Jack move, it kind of felt like Delaware State said, please just don't send us to the NEC. Like, it was just a pure desperation hire. Like, can we be included in this conversation? Because, like, I get the Vic because he's tied into the Tidewater area. I got the Deion move because he's Deion Sanders. I got the Eddie George move because of the Nashville ties. But, like, the D-Jack to Delaware State, like, to me, and I've talked to multiple coaches today about it who have interviewed for that job, are just like, what is the pull there? And I really just feel like they wanted a celebrity hire and they just found someone who could say yes. And it's hit or miss, but if you're Delaware State, what do you have to lose, right? I mean, they have been one of the worst programs over the past few years. So I just think Delaware State, listen, they threw up a half-court shot. If they make it, it looks like a genius move. If it misses, then they're right back in the same spot they were for the past 5 years.
Well, I thought about this. Dover is what, an hour and a half from Philly?
Yeah, about that.
Because Delaware is super tiny. So maybe they're trying to play into that. Maybe try to get some Philadelphia interest, some Philadelphia market. I don't know. We all know markets are, pretty much, in my belief, a scam when it comes to doing football moves, just to be honest. So because there's no way Kennesaw State should be FBS. But I digress. So maybe they're trying to do that. Maybe they're trying to tie in that whole Philadelphia Eagles thing.
Seems like some of these HBCUs are doing a bit of reaching when it comes to their coaches and hires, and it just seems like sometimes they look at the name and it's like, we're for sure going to get the recruits, but it doesn't always work like that.
I gotta ask, is having an NFL career make you a good coach? Because if so, I think Brian Hansen should be the new offensive coordinator of the South Dakota Coyotes. I mean, he was a professional punter.
I think maybe people laughed a little at like the Deion thing, but Deion's been great. And then I think now it's got to seem, it's like the NFL. Remember the Wildcat was like the thing, and then like spread offense is the thing. Like people will copy and paste. But what Eddie George did this year shouldn't go unnoticed. So now you almost have like two really good examples. And so why not give it a shot? Eddie George, I think, is more important to this puzzle than just Deion Sanders.
Yeah, because Deion's Deion, right? Like, I think we can all agree, like, you're not going to out celebrity hire that. Like, Deion Sanders has that cachet that no one else can bring. Eddie showed that you can build a program from the ground up, right? Because it took him 4 years to get Tennessee State to the point where they could compete in the playoffs for a Big South OVC title. Then you had the Ed Reed debacle. That's the one failure, right? So we're 2-1 on these celebrity hires right now because Ed Reed didn't even get to the season. But I think what you're going to see, I think Vic is going to be more in the realm of, he's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of an Eddie George Deion, because I do think he's popular enough in that area where he's going to have the cachet that Deion did nationally, but it's just for that region of the Tidewater area. But Norfolk is a program that's going to take a year or two to get to competing for championships, right? Just because they have not been a great program. Odom's just really struggled building that program out. Delaware State seems like it's going to be closer to the Ed Reed side, where unless D-Jack just goes out and hires an outstanding staff and he out-recruits my expectations, I just don't know if that's a long-term move that's going to work. Just because, I mean, everyone's saying he's going to go into California and out-recruit everybody. I'm sorry. I don't think just because you hire D-Jack, you're going to out-recruit Brennan Marion at Sac State, what UC Davis is doing, the Montana schools that recruit California. I personally just don't see Delaware State out-recruiting everybody in California just because D-Jack's from California.
Do you see Zach, though, be able to pull people out of the portal, going down to 105 kids in these FBS programs now? I mean, you got that name. That's tough to say no to a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, but are you going to be able to convince kids from Florida, California, all these high-level states to go to Delaware?
Well, I mean, some of them come to North Dakota.
I mean, yeah, but you guys have like South Canada. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to say this. You might be the most unpopular guy in Fargo right now. The fact you just compared North Dakota State to Delaware State. I'm just going to say that. Like, we just made that comparison, and we're not even 10 minutes into this show.
Well, I picked against them also all the way. So, can't be popular.
I was saving that comparison for the second bottle of champagne, but okay.
Yeah, Cat Dan here at the comments. Ed McCaffrey at Northern Colorado. Historic failure for an NFL guy.
Yeah.
But people forget how popular Michael Vick is, especially in that Atlanta area, even to this day. Matt Ryan spoke on it late in his career, how he'd be like, man, I could get this team to the Super Bowl, which he did, and there are still Vick jerseys everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see what he does locally. I'm excited for it.
To answer your question about hiring an NFL guy and if it translates, Honey Badger, what Honey Badger just said is the perfect answer. You want somebody who is a leader, not necessarily, obviously, I think positionally, the knowledge that they have about the game is going to matter. I mean, you talk about Ed Reed, Ed McCaffrey, some skill position guys, and then the quarterbacks, obviously running backs. But I don't know if a position specifically matters for translation to a good head coach, but I think it's more so what their leadership characteristics are and if that translates in that way to the players.
Yeah, and I think too, on top of that, it does have to do a bit with the amount of funding and amount of support you can get, because there's no way that Prime would have done what he did at Jackson State at like Mississippi Valley. No offense, Delta Devils,
No.
love you guys, but there's no way. Like there's no money support there, right? Norfolk State's probably going to do okay. They've got some funding behind them. Was it the level of Jackson State? I don't know. But Delaware State, man, that's rough. So I think Deshaun Jackson's going to definitely have a more uphill battle when it comes to success there versus
Zach,
Nick.
could I ask you a question about what Jackson State, because correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson State just won the Celebration Bowl, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think had Deion not gone to Jackson State, they would have just won that Celebration Bowl?
I think, okay, so loaded question.
They probably would have won the two that he lost as coach.
Yeah, like I do think Jackson is an interesting situation because I know a lot of people give Prime credit. He deserves some, right? I'm not going to say Prime deserves no credit for what Jackson's become, but if you remember, the guy they hired, who's the head coach there now, TC Taylor, was actually the guy they were going to hire until Deion, said he wanted the job, and so they kept TC on the staff to ultimately replace Deion whenever. But you look at the key contributors on that team, a lot of those guys weren't on the Prime teams. Those were guys that TC Taylor got. And so I think they probably will, because they had to replace 65 players from that team that left when Prime left. They had to replace the entire coaching staff outside of two coaches, which was Coach O, the recruiting coordinator, general manager, and then TC, who obviously became head coach. So I think Prime deserves a little bit of credit to helping the brand recognition on the recruiting trail. But TC Taylor and that staff, man, really, listen, they balled out on the recruiting trail. They built a real program. And I really do think they capitalized on what Prime brought and made it even better right now, man. They're coaching their tails off right now, man. And I think they're probably the favorite to win the Celebration Bowl again next year.
Well, speaking of championship games, let's transition our way over to the one that is happening in 11 days. You've got Montana State versus North Dakota State in a rematch of the 2022, the 2021, 2022. Yeah. Which hopefully will be
on its last second.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll it'll be a more entertaining game than that game was. Unfortunately, with Malott getting injured early in the game, and it just wasn't even close. I know we've got a couple biased folks in here who are big on the Bison. I know we got one
last game.
Yeah, we got one guy who was intentionally picked against NDSU on everyone, and then we've got Chad, who I hope has finally finished licking his wounds from the game. Although you did make quite the TV appearance. During that one.
At least once.
And also, too, shout out to the Jackrabbit Illustrated boys. I thought I'd wear the other Matt's face tonight. But so let's talk about Frisco. Not necessarily predictions, because God knows Zach's got to get more content out this week and needs the listeners. But I think matchup wise, it's going to be a pretty fun one to watch. Matt, what are your thoughts? We're going to start with you.
Holy moly, throwing it at me right away. Well, it's kind of nice to see things course correct. We had COVID, and COVID was quite a thing, it was like a pest that threw everything off. Think of pests, you think of rodents or rabbits or something like that,
Technically a hare.
Kind of it throws everything off a whack for a few years, but we finally, as Americans, you think about America, you think about like strong animals. I don't know, bison, think of anything. Finally, we're back to normal.
I think of grizzlies. That's a strong animal.
I'll take that. Yeah, I worked on that all day. Practiced that one in the mirror. That was a good sign, by the way, in the dome, because the fluffy cows, the SDSU fans behind me, first off, were awesome. 3 young bucks. They were great. We chatted the whole game. And they said fluffy cows a billion times, which I respect that. It's a good one. But some lady in the dome had a sign that said, technically, rabbits are agricultural pests. And I was like, that's solid from a farming school. Like, she just put the fact out there on a sign. So, no, back to Frisco.
Jackrabbit's not a rabbit, though.
Boy, I just think that both fan bases are feeling the same thing. We saw each other last year. It was super close. and then each fan base does this. But we're so much better this year, so we're probably going to win. I think that's how both fan bases are feeling. I think NDSU fans, and I'll admit myself, are having compliments Chad and his Jackrabbits. They're having double Jackrabbit victory syndrome right now, where I think a lot of NDSU fans are like, okay, we beat the Rabbits twice in the same year, back-to-back champs, a team everybody loved, and undoubtedly, look at bracket challenges, look at media, look at this. We're not going to lose to Montana State. I think that's spread. That's not necessarily my opinion. I'm just saying I think that is spread amongst NDSU culture. On the Megalive tonight, Rev, I kind of want to take off. It's why I labeled myself biased here. I'm taking off the unbiased, and I'm going to try to bring what I'm hearing from Fargo and what I'm hearing from my buddies at the bars and everything else. And that's a lot of who can stop us now. And that's credit to the Jackrabbits. And I don't know how you wouldn't be feeling that way. And I don't know why the Bobcats wouldn't be feeling at 15-0, spanking USD while we choked it down our legs at the end of the regular season. Why they wouldn't be thinking the same thing. So I think right now you've got two really, really confident fan bases. And Parlay spoke on that a little bit. I think he tiptoed a little bit in terms of like, well, it is the Bison. But I think both teams are going down there. And I think both fan bases are expecting to win this game. So it's going to be fun. I don't know what the outliers think. But yeah.
I'll say there's a saying, it's pride comes before the fall, but unfortunately that doesn't work for both teams this time. So yeah. So I mean, I got to think, and Sam, you're up in Montana, so you're gonna probably see this more. I got to think Matt's right that Montana State fans are feeling pretty confident going undefeated in the regular season, and absolutely demolishing South Dakota to get to this point.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, the vibe for Montana State fans is so weird because I think a lot of them so much remember the early 2000s and the mid 2000s where Houck was there the first time and the Grizz were so dominant in the early 2000s when the streak was live. And I think at least what I'm picking up from Bobcat fans is every time I talk to them, they seem like they're like, yeah, man, we're 15-0. And I'm like, yeah, man, like natty. And like every next step they have, they're always nervous. I feel like they're never able to give themselves that confidence of like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. Like, obviously I see all the comments online and they're very confident. I'm very confident in them as well. But I don't know. I felt like from the fans' standpoint, it never is as strong as I felt like it should be. Like, you guys are 15-0. You guys beat the FCS opponent. You guys have beat everybody in front of you by multiple scores outside of UC Davis. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, where's the freaking confidence? I don't know. I think there's a healthy level of confidence in them, but obviously I still feel like they have that, I don't know, like hesitant.
Sam, they got SDSU syndrome. Chad knows where I'm going with this. Is dude, in Frisco, I've said this story through 2-3 years in a row. I'm sitting by him and Thumper and them in Frisco, and SDSU scores like a touchdown, and they're up then like 3 scores, and we're heading to the 4th. And I heard Chad say to Thumper or one of them, he's like, I think if we get a stop on the next drive, I think it's done. And I turned over and I said, what game are you watching?
That may or may not have happened.
This game's been over from the second quarter. So it's something about just getting over probably that Bison hurdle. Hate me if you want, the Brady hurdle, whatever it is like you just don't believe it till you see it because you've just never, But I think Montana State fans have a lot to be excited about. So.
Oh, yeah, they definitely do.
But I don't know about Taco King if he's feeling as confident as most Bison fans are.
Right now with me, I think it's a 1-score game, and I haven't decided who's going to win yet, to be honest.
You can't ask Taco King that question. He's picked against North Dakota State the whole way through the
pick against his team. You know that.
I honestly picked NDSU to lose by 14 last week, so I shows what I know. But leading up to the game, the whole way I wrote, NDSU has to find it if it wants a chance to win that game. And I guess I'm going to say was tackling, because for the most part, they tackled pretty well in that game. I didn't think they'd be able to corral SDSU's running back. I really didn't. I thought he would have a heyday, and NDSU would have to pack the box, and Mark would go nuts on him. And that didn't happen in the game. And I think that, to me, what I got to watch of the game was kind of the big point of it. They were able to shut SDSU's running game down. And by doing that let them win the game. Can they do that now to Montana State? I don't know if you can do 4 running backs with one of them playing QB that can actually throw the ball now.
Well, I'm curious for Chad's perspective here, because Chad, I've done these mega lives and thing as SDSU just rolled the FCS the last couple seasons. So now, how do you see this as the South Dakota State fan, as the other Missouri Valley team that others would have picked to be the title winner, like almost putting yourselves in NDSU shoes? I mean, what's your perspective, I guess? I'm just curious.
Well, to Brian's point, maybe I should just call him Taco King on here, but that they found last game when they played us. They had the desire to win it more. They were pissed that they lost to USD, and they weren't going to let that happen twice. And I think Polasek has brought back a bit of that business as usual, grinded out football that the Bison have played for years and years. And I'll add that, I mean, if you go listen to what Tim and Zach said on their last episode, the linebackers, especially Kopp, played out of their minds in that game. And I think that was the difference. Well, obviously the fumble was a big thing. Taking the knee was a big thing. But overall, I mean, the way they played on defense, they came out second half and out-schemed our team. That's how I feel. That's probably not going to make my Rabbit fans happy, but our coaches seemed somewhat shell-shocked in that second half. They didn't have anything different. They just thought, we're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to run it down your throat, and you're going to have to stop us. Well, that works until they stop you, and that's what happened. I could see the Bison team doing that potentially. Mark was hindered at running because his hand was screwed up. I don't think Mark runs in the same fashion that Tommy does, but yeah, that's right. I mean, we all know that, right? So that's a different style of running back. Maybe Chase Mason's a little bit more like Tommy, but that's going to be a tough game. I think, like we're all afraid of, the juggernaut is Vegan's team this year, and Vegan potentially can out Bison the Bison. And had Polasek been there for 2 years with these guys, had Bryce Lance came on a little earlier in the season, maybe last year when he looked like that, giraffe running around, baby giraffe, maybe the Bison would pull it out here. I'm not going to count them out. I'm not saying they won't win. I just think the odds when they come out are going to be at least, I think, 14-point favorites for the Bobcats.
They're 3.
14?
They're
Really?
3-point favorites.
That's it? Oh, come on. Give me that.
Crazy.
Give me that.
I
don't think it will be that close.
No,
I don't think
Somebody was asking taco bets. I'll take your 14 and let's bet some taco.
It's 3 right now on ESPN.
I'll take your 14. Let's light them up.
I have a feeling you're going to see that line probably shift up a couple points as we get closer to Frisco, and I bet it's more like a 5.5 line.
I
but
would
it's
think
not
the
gonna be
opposite.
Do you think he'll get down?
Just because of the brand recognition of North Dakota State, because you got to think all the average bettors who never bet FCS football are going to bet this game.
Yeah,
when they click on that line,
FCS
they're going to see the Bison and be like, "Oh, they've won like 17 straight national titles in their mind." So they're going to bet the Bison. I think the line's actually going to come closer to even before the game.
So before we
go down to 1.5,
that's probably fair. We can talk about that too. We can see what the line is on Sunday when we do a live show from Frisco. Speaking of shameless plug, there'll be a live show Sunday from Frisco on this channel. I'll let Matt do it later because he's better at it. But this is a question, and Brian and Matt can't answer this because I know they know the answer. But for the other three, when we look at PFF grades, what is North Dakota State's tackling grade? Does anybody know?
Outside the top 100.
70 or 60.
Zach nailed it. It is outside the top 100. It's 116th.
It's been an issue all year.
But they didn't have problems last week, did they, Bobby?
No.
It's a rivalry game, man. Come on.
Yeah, you can't.
That's true. You've got a good point, Sam. Everything goes out the window in a rivalry game. Game where even more's at stake. It's not just for
The thing that worries me, though, is the difference in attacks, right? Because the rushing attack for Montana State is not the same as South Dakota State. Because South Dakota State's fine with just trying to run through you. So they're not trying to make you miss an open space. Now, Amar can do it, but that's not Kirby's game. That's not Mark's game. They'd rather run over you than run around you. Tommy and those running backs will make you look stupid in the open field if you are not disciplined. I mean, the move that Tommy made, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where he just made the corner miss on the outside? He's the only quarterback. He's the only quarterback in the country that could have made that guy miss. No one else is making that play. That's what worries me with North Dakota State is this is the most athletic team I believe that they've seen all year long.
But also,
Outside
it's
of
not
maybe
just the run
Colorado.
game. Also, it's not just the run game. They have the RPO, like along with the run game, they have the RPO. Obviously, you have Tommy's legs that are involved in it, but also when they do that basically like a triple option play where he can hand it off on the zone read, pull it, he can run it, or he can dump it off to the tight end. I mean, with Tommy as the quarterback in a run scheme like that, that is so incredibly hard to defend. I mean, I feel bad for any defensive end or linebacker trying to defend that.
So Matt has thrown up the PFF grades, and Montana State is on the left and North Dakota State is on the right. So you can see that they're close in a lot of things, offense, passing. And then there's some
10th in rushing.
Yeah.
The thing that people have made the mistake of with NDSU, and I'll play a defensive fan here, is because they've been so dominant and they've been so great that when I quietly tell people NDSU is a top 20 rushing defense, people go, "What? No, they're terrible. They're awful." Yeah. I've seen all over Twitter and Bison fans and everyone say how bad they are. Well, no, they're top 20. You know, their total defense is top 22nd. Well, no. I've seen everywhere that it's bad. You know, Montana State's got a strength of schedule of 16th and NDSU's is first. And yet a lot of this looks like NDSU. So, hey, playing the bias Bison here, there's a lot to be confident about. I mean, I think NDSU played a superior schedule. I think they played tougher opponents. Yeah, they absolutely pissed that USD game down their leg, and credit to the Bobcats who did not. But I think there's things that the Bison look at. They see those USD running backs running down the field, past safeties, easily going past corners, opening up holes, and they think, we can do that. Our offensive line can do that. I think it really comes down to that NDSU defense because, boy, when you watch Tommy Malott take off on the run, holy crap. Talk about a missile from 0 to 1,000. I don't think I've seen a player who can just flip a gear like that. And NDSU secondary and those boys, if they try that shoulder bump stuff instead of arm tackle, they are going to get ran through by that Montana State rushing offense. But yeah. I did want to defend NDSU a little bit in terms of the national scope of what is PFF, what do the FCS total stats show in comparison to what narrative has been. And this Bison team is a lot better than people realize, and maybe that's dumb to say because they're obviously in Frisco. So
yeah, way to say the obvious.
I'm going to contradict myself just a little bit, but what were you saying in your show last, Zach, about winning in the margins and doing the dirty things that just don't necessarily show up?
Yeah, that's how North Dakota State wins these games is they win in the margins, whether it's turnovers, whether it's red zone success rate, whether it's making key plays in the key moments. It's things that if you don't watch the game, you don't realize that they did. Like NDSU is not going to have the number one rushing offense and the number one rushing defense, but they might give up a whole lot of yards, but they're empty calories because they stop you in the red zone and you either have to kick a field goal or don't score. They force a turnover in the exact right moment, like that fumble this weekend. You don't realize how big that fumble was if you didn't watch the game. You don't realize how bad that penalty was against Adam Bach with the late hit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and also, too, the key throws Miller makes. Like, Miller might not have the best overall stats in the FCS, but every time a play needs to be made, number 7's making that play.
That's why he's winning the Peyton. That's why he's winning the Peyton. Even though
I think Tommy's going to win the Peyton.
I know it's going to be Miller. Even though we all know it should go to Targi Lamson, but it's a quarterback award.
Yeah. No, I love everything Zach just said about Cam Miller. That boy is a winner, man. I've been saying that since I saw him in Missoula last year. And man, when the plays need to be made, oh my goodness, man, that guy is on. When game time gets started and the winning plays need to be made, that dude is going to make them, guaranteed.
Yeah, he does for the most part have ice in his veins. Like he's pretty unflappable. I think I've only seen him make just very rare mistakes, and some of them are dumb mistakes, like the whole bow and arrow shit that got him penalized. last year. Like other than that, like he makes very, very smart plays. And I
Perfect.
haven't been the most complimentary of Cam Miller because it also pisses off Taco King quite a bit. And I just like to do it in our group chat just to mess with him. But man, I mean, he versus Tommy, maybe like probably the most enjoyable quarterback match we're going to get to watch in Frisco.
Just think how good he could be if they would have started him sooner.
Yeah.
A perfect example of NDSU winning in the margins. I would go back and look at that East Tennessee State game. I mean, there is absolutely no way they should have won that game from the East Tennessee State standpoint. I mean, East Tennessee State had North Dakota State dead to rights. And just every little play that needed to be made in the moment was made.
It's also the Bison horseshoe. You never can count.
They do have a golden horseshoe up their ass.
Right up their ass.
That is very.
I think
it's
it's on other teams, man. People, it's well documented now with Tom Brady. People would get in their own heads in that third quarter because he's just standing over there. And I swear, I just think teams get in their heads because they're like, oh crap,
we're gonna lose again.
Matt, that you bring that up, I almost wonder if that's going to play in Tommy's head because every time he's played the Bison, he's had a tough time staying on the field.
Yeah, this is his chance, honestly, to be the Cam Miller versus South Dakota State a little bit. Maybe not to the extreme because his legacy has not been defined, I don't think, in terms of NDSU. He was injured in that first title game, and I could have stood behind that NDSU offensive line in 2021 and handed off footballs to Hunter Lipke and watched NDSU win a title. But I think this is his moment, obviously, here. And, you want to send Vegan off to the Pac-2 in a good way. You want him to go get that big contract. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I'll go on mute here. I don't even know.
We're gonna act
Is this a Megalive?
We'll edit it
like we don't all know.
This is a Megalive. We're supposed to have fun, aren't we?
Hey, not every coach loses in Montana State, when they got another job on the line.
Ooh.
We're gonna act like Hunter Lipke needs an offensive line to gain 5 yards.
No.
I will say this though about Tommy Millott is, and I don't know what his 40 time is off the top of my head, but out of
fast.
People, I was gonna say out of people I've seen personally in my lifetime, Rocket Ishmael, whenever he played, was the fastest person I've ever seen with my own two eyes in person, and Tommy Millott is probably number 2.
Mm-hmm.
He is insanely fast. It is just ridiculous. And if the turf doesn't eat him in Frisco, like it kind of did in that last game, man, this could be, like I said, this could be probably one of the best matchups we've seen with starting quarterback.
I've heard from sources that he may be in the 4.3 range. I doubt that he's a 4.3 guy, but I think he could definitely swing 4.4 for sure.
Maybe it's not his overall speed. Maybe it's just his acceleration because damn. He might, he's not like Bowser on Mario Kart. He doesn't have that top speed. He's probably more like Yoshi. He's got that quick acceleration and levels out. But man, good enough for it's good enough. So
first 10 yards, he's awful fast. That's for damn sure.
That's it.
So is Taco Dowler. Like I saw Taco Dowler return a punt when I was up there. I think it was 2 years ago in that William and Mary game. Bro, that kid is like lightning in a bottle fast.
Well, I mean, come on, the name.
Ron,
yeah,
gotta
be fast.
Ron says 4.3, and Ron is all up Montana State's ass when it comes to stats. So, Ron may be right on that. So.
Yeah, but that's not like you don't give your guy a little bit.
I will bet anybody $100 Tommy Millott doesn't win 4.3.
Hey,
that sounds like a taco bet. Sounds like a taco bet.
No, we should taco bet his 40 time.
They need to build.
I would love to.
They need to build an indoor for his pro day.
Yeah,
indoor for his pro day because if he runs it outside, he's not making 4.3 in Montana in January.
No, let's watch the combine or the pro day and see what it is.
Does he get a combine invite?
He might. I think he will.
I don't think so. Listen. I'm going to say a controversial thing. I don't think Tommy's an NFL quarterback.
I don't think he is either. I think he's CFL at best, if I'm being 100% honest, and he'd fit into the Canadian Football League.
Cam Miller's an NFL prospect because of his size. Tommy Millott is not. I could not see if Tommy Millott makes the NFL. It's not at quarterback.
Running back, special teams.
He'd be an athlete. He'd be like Woody Dantzler was, quarterback at Clemson, then ended up returning punts for the Cowboys when they sucked. My
fellow Matthew here. Sorry, guys, I got to jump in. I think if you put Cam Miller at SDSU for the last 4 years, the titles are probably the same.
They're both not that guy.
Those SDSU teams were so good. We're so good. The talent around Mark Gronowski. I think Mark Gronowski actually gets a little bit of unfair hate in terms of what they're like, well, now he lost all his players. He's not as good. I can't imagine how bad they would be if he wasn't there this year, if he was at Northwestern.
Let's say SCSU last year was at, I don't know, SFA. You had the same players playing at Stephen F. Austin, right? And they lost those players. SFA would be, a 2-8, 2-9 team, right? Just terrible. While South Dakota State managed to reload with folks who didn't see that much field time last year and got back to the semifinals. Like, that's the difference up there. And I think with that happens because Gronowski's also at the helm to help guide them. But I mean, I also see that too. Like, I think if you put Cam Miller at South Dakota State, he'd have a couple rings on his fingers.
I'm not gonna down talk Cam Miller, but Mark Gronowski's intangibles as a leader are some of what
Amen.
made
Well
that
said.
team great. So I can't talk about Cam. I'm sure he's a nice guy. There was old curmudgeons getting all pissed off because he said he hates the Jackrabbits. Grow up, get over yourselves. That's part of the rivalry.
It is.
Time out. Did Mark Gronowski not give the horns down and do this before a game once? Shut up.
Everyone making that comment.
Hockey stick.
Yeah, people are blowing it out of order. It's fine when you have a rivalry game like that. It's fine. It's fine to say you hate that other team. You should.
Yeah, it's not like he wants to shoot them.
Fun. You don't tell me the Grizz like the Bobcats or vice versa. And come on, they do not like each other.
I was at Cat Grizz as a media member this year, and I was getting the bird thrown at me.
Taco King's got it. Taco King's got it right there. And Sam, I can see you smiling. I can imagine the Montana and the Bobcat fans seeing SDSU and NDSU fans going back and forth of, was this a big deal that he said hate? And they're probably like, what are they talking about?
You guys
really a thing?
You guys want to hear something that I heard about the rivalry this year with Cat Grizz, which is a perfect epitome of rivalries in college football? So, do you guys remember Cat Grizz last year? You guys might have not have seen this. They interviewed Houck after the game, and he said, "That's an ass beating if I've ever seen it, or beat down or something on national television." And the Cat fans were livid. Oh my gosh, Bobby, he's so arrogant. That a-hole. That I heard that the week leading up to Cat Grizz this year, that was playing over and over and over for the Bobcat players. Every day they had to listen to it. And, that's what rivalries are about, man. If you ain't talking shit, what are we doing?
Well, so I will say,
look what happened in midfield with Ohio State, Michigan.
Oh, that was amazing.
What makes rivalries great. If you don't want them to chatter, then shut them up on the field.
Yeah, I remember.
You had 60 minutes to fight back.
Yeah, I remember SFA and Sam back when I was in college. We got in a fight with the players in the stands after the game. Like, they came and rushed in the stands, and we started swinging.
I'm not condoning that.
I'm not either. But that was 20 years ago. That was different times back then. But I want to point out one thing about Cat Grizz. Montana may hate Montana State. Montana State may hate Montana, but they both have a love for dinosaur shit, which is that trophy that they play for. That does look like the biggest pile of dinosaur poop from Jurassic Park I've ever seen in my life. Get a better trophy.
The Potato Bowl has it right there in its sights.
Both those trophies are absolutely terrible. I'm sorry. There was a comment. I'm not going to scroll back up to it, but Jason Plotkin asked, he asked about restaurants. We can make fun of North Dakota State fans and their love for tight ends and Twin Peaks and Hooters and restaurants with scantily clad women with microwave foods. But do you remember when Montana State came? Did we run into any Bobcat fans at any of the bars? I remember we went to Scruffy's one night wearing our rival gear for charity. But I was drunk a lot of that weekend, so I don't really remember if we ran into Montana State fans. I'm just being honest. Like, Matt, do you remember where they were at?
Montana State fans were some of the nicest and best ones that I've ever interacted with. I put on Twitter a few times. I said of the year, I was like, geez, they were just really nice people. Honestly, Grizz fans were great too last year. Shocking. Once you get in person, people are nice. There's the threat of being punched in the face, and everybody's kind. It's crazy. But the Montana State fans were super kind and great. But no, they didn't have a crazy presence or organized entity. Like, we just couldn't find solid spots. The way, boys, shout out to Jackrabbit Illustrated. I said on Twitter, the way they could organize a party and put things together. Or, the bison lineups and the tailgates in the morning. I'm hoping they do have it, because if you guys haven't figured out from watching the show, Kyler, Jamie, and I, and the rest of the crew, we have done the Bison things forever. And we've got Taco King with us, so we will hit some of the spots. But we try to go, even when NDSU's there, we try to go where the opposite team is at. Rev, we know we went to those Montana spots last year because we were like, we've done the SDSU thing. We want to go where they are. So if there are like Ron, who's probably the greatest YouTube commenter and Montana State fan of all time, if you guys know where the Montana State things are going to be, we want to know because that's where we want to hang out. And yeah, to answer your question, Rev, just didn't see a lot of them.
That's the thing. I don't remember that, right? Areas. Because every year we've done the North Dakota. We know North Dakota State fans are going to be. I'm being a bit facetious about the restaurants, but we know they'll be at Scruffy Duffy's. We know where they're going to be, right? And so, yeah, I want to go see, Montana State fans. I will say, shout out to Montana fans, man. Evan Wilson is a class act. That was probably the high point of the weekend, was meeting him and hanging out with him for a bit. So Montana State fans, if you're watching this, DM me on Twitter, DM Matt, tell us where you're going to be so we can come hang out with you. And if you really want to get a beer really quick, go to the local because South Dakota State won't be there and you'll get it like that this year. So,
hey, and shout out to Chad. Chad is here, boys. He's like, you know what I mean? The guy is South Dakota State's out, a rough loss. There's a big turnover of a class. And yet here sits Chad. So
and he's going to be in Frisco.
And he's coming
to be in Frisco.
He's going to be in Frisco. Get to have a beer with my buddy. I'm excited.
For sure.
The first old fashions on me for him.
Yeah.
I don't know, Rev, who's going to wear the bunny suit this year.
Oh, I thought about wearing it anyway in the end zone as a joke with a sign that said "I'm sad" to see if I. but from what I heard, Taco King has got us covered to get on TV this year. So
is that real?
We'll see how this goes.
Okay, he's shaking his head. So he had me covered for a place to stay for the marker game. So thank you, sir. And,
hey, Sam, I got a question. You're a former player. You're the only one probably, Taco King could speak a little bit to this too as well. I am obsessed with the mental part of the game. Many fans think it's not that big of a deal. That's mental huge pressure on two huge senior classes, massive legacies, last chance to dance feelings, even though we know these programs can get back one day. Who do you think stands with the most pressure within their own internal locker rooms? Who do you think?
I think the more pressure is on Montana State, only because North Dakota State has been here so many times. Cam Miller's won a national championship before against a lot of the guys on this Montana State team who were probably a part of that team in 2021. I think the pressure's on Montana just because they're undefeated. They're back to face the same team from 2021. Everybody, I feel like they have all the momentum. They have the better team. They should win. And knowing that, going out and executing is a whole different thing. So I think the pressure for sure is on the Cats.
It feels like 2017 JMU, almost like team of destiny. And then there it is. The big boogeyman stands across. And, can you get the job done?
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Sorry, I'm putting out a call to arms for Montana State fans to find out.
Rev's trying to find he's trying to find people to hang out with during the Megalive.
I'm trying to get. No, I'm just trying to figure out. Because again, that's part of the fun of this whole thing, right? Is seeing fan bases that we don't normally interact with, right? Because there's no way in hell I'm going to Montana because it's cold. So you won't see me up there for playoff games. But no. So speaking of next year,
you're missing out.
I actually, I have been to Wagriz for a playoff game. And I watched SFA get absolutely obliterated in the cold. So I've done it.
There is no playoff game like one you can see in Montana. I promise you, man. I promise you.
So we're talking about, next year. We know that these two schools have a huge senior class. We know Aiden Bauman's coming back to South Dakota because of the whole JUCO rule. We know Clifton McDowell is in the transfer portal again for his 7th program or whatever. That dude. That dude gets around. So
one quick question, Zach, can you answer this for me? Okay, Clifton McDowell played at a JUCO for a year. With that court ruling, does he have 2 years left?
No, he has
only one.
This is one. Yeah,
that court ruling said that JUCO now does not count.
But this is giving him one more year.
He got a medical this year.
He was still.
He got a medical.
He wouldn't have qualified. He wouldn't have qualified for a medical. He played like 75% of the season.
Yeah, and also too. Yeah, I don't think he qualified for medical, and so he only has 1 year left.
Yeah.
Okay. It was
And did
floating
you?
around. He
The
got a medical.
NCAA appealed that. The
It was
NCAA
floating.
appealed the Pavia ruling.
It was floating around. He got a medical this year.
Oh, I didn't. I mean, I don't know, but like, I'm really interested to see where he winds up. Like, do you think he stays FCS? Do you think he gets an FBS? I mean, there's so many kids in the portal. There's what 6,000, 7,000 kids right now, or student athletes in the portal right now trying to find a home, right? Like, Zach, I mean, if you're looking at this, where do you think Clifton McDowell lands? And then where does he decommit from and then go elsewhere too? Because he's going to do that also.
That's crazy.
Oh, I heard South Dakota State could use an extra quarterback, or excuse me, USD could use another quarterback. Is what I meant. Because Aiden Bauman's coming back now. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I saw
along with Pennington, so that'll be interesting.
I don't think he's going FBS. Just me personally, with his injury history, 7th year. I mean, bro, if you couldn't win the job at Temple, like I think your FBS dreams have died at that point. So stay FCS, and I don't know why okay, maybe he didn't want to play for the new coach at McNeese. I mean, go find a good program that throws to football somewhere. I mean, or has like a dual threat. I think sneakily Tennessee State, with what they did with Draylon Ellis, with his skill set, that could be a place that he could wind up and probably win some games. Now, I mean, the way Ayat played this year, I think Montana needs a quarterback. I mean, he was a little bit better than Ayat, so maybe he spins the block.
Then they get somebody from Fresno.
To bench every 3 plays for Ayat?
Yeah, well, they one of their QBs also just left today. That kid from
Hewitt, Caden Hewitt, Helena High. He's going to Carroll.
Yeah, he's going to Carroll, which is a hell of an NAI program.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the third. So they had a transfer quarterback just now, Caden Hewitt, go to Carroll. They lost the Gatorade Player of the Year, state champion, AA state champion, to Tech because they wouldn't let him play quarterback. And then I guess they tried to go back. Allegedly, they tried to go back and tell him he could play quarterback. He's done at that point. And then they also lost another 3-star lineman recruit to Carroll, if I'm not mistaken. He mentioned in his post that he was getting a full ride scholarship. I don't know if that meant that he didn't have one from Montana, but NAIA and Montana has been kind of stealing recruits from the Grizz lately.
What's interesting to me about the whole thing too, is that Logan Fife, man, what a quarterback to have, and Montana pissed him away for a name. Like if I was a Grizz fan, I would be pissed. I would absolutely.
They were at the SDSU game. Trust me.
Like
that. I mean, I think they prioritized the development of Ayat. So obviously, everybody with eyes could see that Fife, personally, in my opinion, I felt like Fife was a better option. And a vast majority of people in the country, pundits, anybody watching the FCS game, thought that Fife was the better guy. I think internally, from a coaching staff standpoint, they felt that although Fife was the better player, Ayat is ultimately the long-term decision, and they still wanted to help develop him, not realizing, maybe they realized that maybe they didn't care, not realizing that sticking with developing Ayat is also torpedoing your season as it stands right now. And I just think they didn't care, is what I think.
Yeah. Well, so initially when we got to I kind of digressed. Yeah, I kind of digressed on the question, but it's kind of hard to look at it now because of the transfer portal. And honestly, I'm glazed over till August when I see final rosters. But let's just pretend. Let's pretend that it's okay. Who do you see coming out as the strong team next year, knowing what schools lose and knowing what schools retain? And who do you
looking
see?
At the whole FCS landscape?
Yeah, look at the whole FCS landscape. And then better question.
What a question.
And who was someone outside the playoffs this past year that you see storming into the top 10 next year?
What about somebody that just snuck in the playoffs?
Thank you, Sam. You hit Sac State. Sac State's going to run into the playoffs next year, bro. Their offseason under Brennan Marion is disgusting, the amount of talent they've brought into that program.
Have you guys seen that offense? The Go-Go?
Yeah, Go-Go's awesome. They're running at UNLV.
And downfield. Oh my God.
And I've been on board with the Go-Go for
Jamar Curtis.
Yeah, Jamar Curtis going there. It just wanted to make me throw up because he's going to run 1,500 yards next year.
Oh, yeah. In that offense, he's going to go stupid.
Yeah. No, Sac State.
They need a good receiver. They need a good downfield receiver, and I think that offense is going to be amazing.
Yeah, Sac State is one I had in mind, and someone who's outside the playoffs I think will vault into the top 10. You can call me Homer. I think it's Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin.
Top 10?
to the top 10. I will put a taco bet now with you, Taco King, that SFA finishes top 10 next year.
I have no idea.
Can I ask another question along with that?
Yeah.
Can I ask another question along with that?
Yeah.
What is it? Because before the season, I was very hard on the UAC. I am very, very impressed with the UAC. What are you guys' thoughts about the UAC after this season?
They were better this year than I thought they would.
Well, that's the thing is they retained a lot of talent in the UAC, right? But then at the same time, the UAC should have been stronger, but Central Arkansas had to go screw it up for everybody else, right? Central Arkansas was the strongest team going into about week 8 and then just completely, just pissed himself the rest of the year. But when you look at the UAC as a whole, I mean, they brought in West Georgia, and folks are like, West Georgia is going to be weak. West Georgia was a strong D2 team. They're in a good recruiting area. So I think with the parity just isn't. I mean, they're just a very tight conference. You can easily look at that conference and go, man, there's going to be 3 or 4 playoff teams out of this conference because they're just good enough to do that. Now, are they good enough to get to the next level? Are they going to Frisco conference? Probably not. Are they going to replace the CAA though in relevancy? I would say yes. Zach, I saw you nodding during some of that, but
yeah. Now, I mean, it just kind of depends. Like, I know you hate to hear it, but it kind of depends on if Tarleton is ready to just throw some money in there and get. Because let's just be honest, like, and I think our guy Sam Herder put it best. Like, there's learning experiences in the FCS playoffs when your first trip. They had a learning experience this year, but let's not forget they were moving the football up and down the field against South Dakota, and if it weren't for the turnovers, that probably is a 1-score game with a chance to win. They had no answer for Darius Cooper. No one could cover him.
Oh my gosh.
Tarleton has the talent. Now the question is, how do you replace Cooper? How do you replace Britton? Can they get a quarterback? But they're in Texas. They have the money. They have the facilities, the resources. Tarleton's going to be a problem. And then you look at Central Arkansas. Can we get somebody who can win with the talent you have? You've had the best defensive player in the FCS for 3 years and done nothing with them. You've had all these great running backs, done nothing.
Adam Bach goes there?
No. Listen, no offense. Listen, David Walker is unbelievable, man.
I know.
That kid's I wish he would have transferred, to be honest with you. Like, because they just wasted him there.
He should have.
It made me some. And then they had the audacity to give Nathan Brown a Coach of the Year award in the AFCA. That's a joke.
Dude, he is like that. You know what will get Central Arkansas over the hurdle is getting rid of Nathan Brown. That's what's going to get them to the next level.
Hire the Harding head coach.
Yeah, no shit, right? Like, you got a guy right up the road who is just killing it at that level. Bring him up to Conway because, you've got Shanderick Powell, right? You've got Darius Hale. You've got Will McElvain at quarterback. You've got the defensive player of the year, right? You've got all this talent, and you manage to out-coach yourself from winning. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And with Charles, is Kayvon Britton a senior, Zach? No, he's younger, isn't he?
I want to say this might have been his last year. I don't listen, bro. Everyone gets 17 years of eligibility.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's very true. He might have played JUCO for all I know. I don't know. And yeah,
he was listed as a senior, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The reason when we said that a team that was outside the playoffs, why I asked if we could choose one that was in, is because of Tarleton. And just think back, where were they 5 years ago?
They were D2.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
These kids ain't been around the block very long, and they have shot right up the ranks. Well, they're on an exponential growth path. They're going to be a juggernaut down there in Texas. They got the money. It seems they're willing to put it into the program what it takes to win.
No, they have got that Aggie money because Tarleton's a great school. If you're too dumb to get into Texas A&M, you go to Tarleton. So. But they've got the fan base, they've got the money, they've got 2 hotels in Stephenville. They're ready for the prime. With
Did you say 2 hotels?
That's all they've got in that town are 2 hotels. Like Stephenville's a dump if you haven't ever been there.
Brookings really outshines that.
Yeah, I went to high school 90 minutes from Stephenville, and when you looked at schools, like SFA had a reputation for party school, but man, if you were just wanted to get into a college, Tarleton, you just walked through to get into. Like, it wasn't even like that difficult. So, but they've got a devoted fan base. They really do. And so, yeah, I think them, like I said, I think SFA, because SFA doesn't lose anything except for Quaylen Jones. They retain their weapons.
I've got another dumb question. What do we expect out of the Fighting X now that he's gone? Like, what do we think that Idaho is going to be next year?
Nothing.
Anything?
They've been gutted, man.
I know, but they got a good coach, right? I mean, by all accounts, that guy.
It's going to take a year, I think, because
they're going to be a 500 team.
They're five.
Yeah.
They're a 5-win team next year.
All right.
They're a 5-win team. But you know
Can I
what? They'll
throw
beat
a
out
real
Eastern
dark horse?
Washington.
Can I throw a real dark horse at y'all? I think Tennessee Tech could be a team out of the South to watch. Want to share
Did
this
they
year?
just get somebody?
They landed Visperas from Eastern Washington as a quarterback. They've been signing like key FCS players throughout the transfer portal. All their transfer portal additions have been starters or contributors at their other FCS school. They're going to be sneaky good because their defense was elite last year, but their offense was atrocious. And they've just been bringing in talent. I think out of the Big South OVC, when you look at what SEMO, UT Martin, and Tennessee State's losing, they could be a sneaky team to watch. Now, they're not going to win the title. Like, I'm not saying they're Frisco bound, but they're going to be a team to possibly break into that postseason that wasn't in it this year.
Yeah.
What Ivy League makes it next year?
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah,
exactly.
That was my next topic. Was the Ivy
Princeton,
League.
Harvard? Who's it going to be? Because they're obviously outside the top 10.
Do they get it? Do they get an AQ?
Yes.
Yes,
they do. AQ.
Okay.
And
so
if they want to outspend everybody, they're gonna.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So do they add more games, or do they still play 10?
Well, they haven't said if they're going to add more games yet, but I think they will. And also, too, if you talk about a conference where the schools could go to 105 scholarships easily, it's the Ivies. The Ivies could turn around and just completely demolish FCS if they really wanted to. And so now it looks like they're maybe slowly dipping their toe in the pool to see how they feel about that by saying we're going to do the playoffs. So I'd be really interested to see if they allow more games. I think they will. I think they're seeing what the college football as a whole is bringing to schools, and not like they need the money, but man, they could want more.
Would they allow them to make the playoffs only playing 10?
They would get an AQ.
Yeah.
They already said they get AQ. Yeah.
Would.
Yep. Would they get an at-large? Probably not, because now there's one less because of the AQs, right? So now you're down to what, 13 at-larges?
13, yeah.
Also, in that area, you can't give multiple Ivy League schools in because you got to have 5 slots for the CAA minimum. That's a requirement. If you look in the guidelines, it's actually in there.
The CAA is probably sick right now.
For the CAA
Who's running the committee next year? That's what I want to know.
That's Larson still. I think it's still Larson one more
I
year.
thought he's done.
Yeah. No, it's Larson. I think it's Larson one more
He
year
got
too.
one more year. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the CAA the most disappointing conference this year?
Yes.
Yes.
There's no question of it. Like, the CAA is smart, right? Because they look at their schools. They're like, okay, we know Villanova is going to be good. We know that Rhode Island's probably going to be good. We know that, well, I was going to say Richmond, but Richmond's, gone to be rivals with Lehigh. But they're looking at that saying, okay, how can we schedule these teams into the playoffs? All right, let's look at Villanova. Let's give them Bryant. Let's give them Elon. Let's give them Campbell. Let's give them NC A&T. Let's give them all the bottom feeding schools. Sorry, A&T, you've got an amazing field, but you're stuck in the CAA. Like, let's give them that so we can make sure we have them in the playoffs. That's what they do. And people get pissed off about it, and it's genius. It's absolute genius to do it because you're guaranteeing your conference is going to get 4 teams because you're scheduling like that.
I mean, when you got 25 teams in the conference, it's pretty easy to freaking.
Yeah, people were pissed off about the college football playoff and the fact that schools like Tennessee got in and stuff. I'm like, well, this is what happens when you have mega conferences, and the CAA is a prime example of this. They got 5 teams in, and they all sucked ass when it came to the postseason. Yeah. So
they won't get 5 in next year because they constantly lose. They constantly lose to the Ivy Leagues and out of conference play.
Yeah, there's no way they get 5. They probably get 2 next year, tops.
That'd be hilarious. Just Villanova. Just give Villanova the AQ and
Villanova and Rhode Island. That's all who's going in.
Richmond is Patriot in 25.
Yep.
Yes. They're gonna run through that conference like disgusting.
Oh yeah.
They don't even have to be good.
No, that's the thing.
Well, to be fair, they lost to Lehigh in the playoffs, but I think that just pissed them off. And they're gonna come back and just be like, yeah, we're gonna show you guys that was a fluke.
Can you imagine that game? It's going to be a bunch of fans with sweaters tied around their necks and 7-inch shorts just pissed off at each other. Like, it's going to be amazing football to watch. Like,
it's going to be the 5 pop collar douche up.
Izod is going to sponsor the shit out of that. So,
and what's the alligator brand?
That's Izod. Yeah.
Lacoste.
Lacoste. Sorry, Lacoste.
Yeah.
Members only jackets abound. Yeah.
The boogeyman of NDSU because of injuries in the portal for this FCS championship will start 5 seniors on offense and 5 seniors on defense. So they lose depth. Wide receiver, they're going to lose a ton, especially if Bryce Lance, who knows if he's there if he portals
He
out
needs to
after
take
this
that
year.
bag, man.
Who
I
knows?
think, yeah. I actually I said this to Matt, and Matt said no to me earlier this year. I said we're losing Lance.
Hold on.
You are.
I despise the portal, but let me just say this to those FCS kids and those 7,000 people that are in the portal right now. This is a true fact. Bryce Lance last year had 1 catch.
Yep.
This year he has 16 touchdowns.
Baby
Listen, I don't know
giraffe.
what life how it goes, and no kids watching this show right now and is listening to Matt Frazee in his basement. But there is something to stick into a program that believes in you, man. There's
Yeah.
Has he
something
been in
there.
NDSU his whole career?
He's been there
Yes.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
So
here's
is he a red shirt or is he a true?
He just graduated with his bachelor's. He redshirted. Yep. So he's
So
he's got his
so here-
degree.
Are we talking about Trey Lance's brother though?
Yeah, he just followed his brother.
Okay, just making sure we're talking about the right guy.
So here's the thing though. Here's what he's
Trey
going to do.
Lance is relevant. in
I
the
get you there,
NFL.
Taco. Every comment on Facebook and Twitter is this Trey Lance's brother?
Here's what he's going to do.
Brother.
He's going to go someplace. He's going to transfer out to someplace like, I don't know, fucking like
Colorado.
Can we
Indiana,
stick
Colorado,
to McDowell
Indiana.
and not my
Yeah.
star wide
No,
receiver?
no.
who's
Listen, here's
playing
what
a
he's
game in
going
a
to do.
week?
He's going to go to Indiana or Colorado. He's going to have a monster year next year. Then he's going to get drafted really early in the draft and get vastly overpaid, and then be a bust in the NFL.
And then end up playing for the Cowboys?
Yeah, and then playing for the Cowboys probably. Yeah, I was going to say.
Sounds familiar.
Cooper Rush, baby. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen with these players and all this stuff, but I tell you what, man, this thing just needs to get fixed so freaking fast.
Oh, yeah.
I want people to have opportunities too, but like, I think Chad, maybe you said this in a group message, but like, how is donor fatigue not going to set in? How is like NIL fatigue not going to set in?
It's going
Some
to.
kid comes to your school, you put money down, you're throwing it into this stuff, and then a year out, they just bounce, pop smoke.
They got to have contract limits.
Thank you, Sam. Because
Contract
look,
terms.
you go to a 2-year community college career fair like I do all the time, and these kids right out of this, they're getting 2-3-year contracts through a Bobcat or someone to pay back. That's no pun intended. To literally pay back their college tuition to work for them for 3 years. You join a military contract, right? 4, 5, 6 years. My brother, a few family members of mine involved in some businesses, they did some buyout things, whatever, right? They do like these 3-year non-compete contracts. Everything that has, most things have contracts. Now, if you want to operate like car sales, where a salesman could just go to a new place every freaking 6 months and try their best, great. But dude, it's disgusting right now. And I really hope that they get contracts down, because I mean, then SDSU could literally be like, hey, we only take kids who are going to sign 4-year deals. Guess what? You miss out on
Or at
all
least
this.
2 to 3.
Yeah.
You miss out on all these stars, all these things. But guess what? Then take the best kid in South Dakota, have them for 4 years, develop them, bring them through, win some championships, and then let other schools operate under 1-year contracts.
How
It's
about
just
like
terrible.
a 3-year contract with an option, given you have your degree? If you have your degree, you can get out of this contract. If not, you're stuck.
And it can all, that's the thing with contracts. It can be written any you want it. And Herb Streak, or no, it was Nick Saban said it best. He said, make the free agency period because of the school timeframes. Make it start in the 2nd week of May. And a lot of these kids will figure out over those 4 months in training camp or whatever, spring ball, that they don't actually even want to leave. And it gives the team the chance to sway them into a new contract and see what they could be, see where they're at on the roster. It's such an easy fix. They just got to do it.
Well,
They
so
just
Once again, the only people that win are the lawyers.
yeah, well, so Captain Dan
Yeah.
brings up a good
Amen,
point, because I
Chad.
thought about this. You're going to see a CBA. You're going to see some sort of collective bargaining agreement in the NCAA, because you're going to have to have one, because this stuff has gotten so dumb. And I'm going to use
So
the,
dumb.
the example of this is what's his name from Texas Tech, wide receiver who had 8 catches for 152 yards, transferred to A&M, got in his NIL agreement. He gets almost $1 million a year. He got 3 cars for his family. He got
I saw that.
he got a private personal driver to drive him in a Cadillac to school and to practice every day. Like, I get that the Aggies have cash, but this is getting dumb. Like, it.
But on the other
legit-
hand, you have Matt Saluka doing what happened to him and getting
Where is
hosed
he?
out there.
In the portal?
Nowhere. He's in the portal. Nobody's taking
He
him.
needs to go back to Holy Cross, is what
He does.
needs to do.
I don't know if Holy Cross has the graduate program for him though.
I mean,
Okay,
you got to
well, then he
think
needs
about
to
the
go-
optics of that as a coach. Who would want that on there?
That's the thing. Like, you don't want
Right. I wouldn't go to UNLV after that as a player.
I will say, like, the other thing too, like, you think about players like that, and I mean, I've led folks in my job. I'm pretty sure Matt has led folks in his job, right? You don't want someone like that, like, on your team. You don't want like someone with that sort of persona or that sort of thing. Like, and so that to me is just, that's a absolute red flag. If I'm looking as a coach, like, do I want this guy? You know,
Luka? You met him down in Frisco. He's a great guy.
Salute,
I
no,
was going
Saluka's
to
a
say
nice
this.
guy.
I was going to say what Chad said. Met him in Frisco. Despite I don't know what things were, this or that, but
If he got lied to, he got lied to. I'm on his side. And I don't care.
He was super nice in Frisco, and he did a lot for that lemonade stand. So he was legit there. But yeah, not great optics. But
I mean, I don't always.
Well, that's the point, Chad. It's not maybe if he did or didn't. It's the optics of it, right? Because that's what it is. There's three sides to every story. You know, there's the two sides and the truth. But the biggest thing in a story is the optics.
Right.
So but look at something like that, it's giant red flags.
I mean, and I don't always agree with Prime with this, because Prime I thought had a really good point in the portal because he was a Jackson. He said this, I think it was last week. There should be a buyout clause for some of these FCS D2 schools where let's just say Griffin Wilde hits the portal this offseason and Minnesota, recruits him. Minnesota's got to pay South Dakota State a set amount to get him.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that.
Okay, now let's talk about something. Matt, you know the Green and Gold Collective.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding, based on my discussions at the tailgate, is that Cole Wisniewski gets $0 because he did not finish the season on his NIL contract, because their contract is basically predicated on you finishing the season.
I'd have to punt to I'd have to bet to Taco King, and I'll take all the judgment in the world on this. I love giving to team makers.
I actually have no idea on that. I would be surprised if that was part of the agreement,
he never played though.
Yeah, he stayed because of it. I mean, that for 100%, he stayed because that NIL got started, because he was gone last year without that.
Yep.
So
I heard that was the thing, though. They don't get paid at all unless they finish the season playing.
Chad, it wouldn't shock me because NDSU has until a coach changes it. It was no different under Ents. It won't change. It won't change no matter what, unless you get a different coach. Paul Sec, same way. Second you hit the portal with NDSU, you have zero shot at coming back. I think Cole and all them, like they were off the roster on the website within an hour. And it sounds brutal because you can give so much to the program, but NDSU they're going to keep that culture of a program. Those who stay will be champions. This is not about you. There will never be names on the back of the jersey. They will never do that.
Right.
It'll always be about the program. And people say they can say whatever. It's not built for NIL. Like the Marine Corps always said that kind of stuff, hey, you want to be like this or that? There's tons of other branches can give you those options. And honestly, NDSU operates the same way, where it's like, you're here for one reason only. Rev, can I get a comment up here to maybe roll out the Megalive? I think it's perfect. I'll find it. Yeah. Somebody wrote, we need a great game in Frisco to save our sport, the great FCS. Maybe a roundtable discussion of where the FCS is going to go for the next half decade, what we see happening with it. Is it in good shape? What are we looking at? Maybe the GOAT, Zach. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine, man. I think, and me and Sam talked about this earlier this year on our show, is that I just think people are always in panic mode. Like you lose a brand here, a brand there, and people just want to hit the panic button at the FCS is going to fall apart. Once you remove the top group of teams, a new batch emerges as the new top teams, and those fan bases get invested by winning championships and winning games, and it gets new fans invested. So, if losing the dynasty that was App State or the Marshalls or whoever back in the early 2000s didn't kill the FCS, losing anybody else in the future is going to be okay. Now, I do think there's an interesting conversation about how to further recruiting and brand recognition, TV deals, stuff like that. Maybe make the FCS playoffs, make some money for once, and get the NCAA's greedy hands out the pockets. But, that's a whole nother conversation that'll become way down the line. But I think the FCS is fine, man. We saw so many teams have insane performances. I mean, who saw Mercer being as good as they were this year? Who saw some of these other teams that just came out of nowhere, man? Idaho's been on the upswing since coming back. I mean, so FCS,
Tarleton,
SU,
like
Incarnate Word, man.
Incarnate Word.
Who would have thought in 2013 when was it 2014?
2013 was
was the year they were on game day with NDSU and they got lost by like 60 in that game. Who would have ever thought that team would be a perennial top 25 team in FCS? So Eddie George and Tennessee State this year making the playoffs for the first time in a while. So FCS is in a great place, man. You saw the TV ratings come out this past weekend. Against the NFL and CFP and everything, both games over 1.3 million. I think the Natty this year has a chance to potentially make that push to 2 with nothing else on prime time. So I think the FCS is going to be just fine, man.
Let me ask this.
Is a good spot.
Along with that question about the FCS, say MSU, Montana, NDSU, no offense, South Dakota State, you guys don't really sell out often.
Oh, dang.
Oh, ouch. Just most of the year.
I'm busy, man. I got stuff going on.
Just most of the year.
Let's say SDSU too, though. Even add them in there. Say those teams leave the FCS. Who are the teams that are bringing on the big fan bases into the FCS?
So here's the thing, right? It's the FCS is like shark's teeth, right? Like a school leaves, somebody's going to come in and fill that row, right? Like the shark loses tooth, next one comes in, right? People, when Boise State left, people were like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do about Boise State?" Everybody was fine, right? App State, Georgia, Southern left. Oh my God, what are we going to do, right? And then look what happens. Somebody's going to come in and step in. The biggest difference, I think, is you have to realize the levels. And Sam, you're from Oklahoma, you get this, right? Montana State, South Dakota, North Dakota State, North Dakota. They are big fish in small ponds, right? They are the thing in their states. They are the top draw, right? All right. Yeah. And they're outliers in the FCS. I guess Idaho State as well. And I guess now Delaware State because Delaware's gone. But the point is that like you'll see these schools in the South that are third tier, right? Slowly draw fans in. You're going to see schools like Mercer bring more fans in, East Tennessee State bring more fans in, West Carolina bring more fans in, Tarleton bring more fans in, Abilene Christian's going to sell out their stadium. You're going to see that happen, right? The problem that FCS has kind of ties to optics because when you have a team who's a top 10 team like Incarnate Word hosts a playoff game with 1,500 people and they're all friends and family of the team, right? That's optics. People look at it and go, "Oh my God, this is Division II or Division III or just shit football." And so the FCS doesn't have a survival problem. If these schools leave, they'll have a marketing problem, right?
Yeah.
It's how do you grow those brands in a very saturated market? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the struggle. But I think too, I still think what you're going to see happen is you're going to see these schools go from FCS to G5 and you're going to see another split. And a lot of these schools that went G5, Sam Houston State, Kennesaw State, James Madison, they're effectively going to be right back where they started because you're going to see the powerful FCS teams move up and you're going to see a division right there who's going to have their own playoff.
I guess one final question I'd have for you guys and your opinions is the FCS better? This is not media. This is not ratings. This is not fans in Frisco. It's none of that stuff that could be used as like a big picture. Is the FCS just better if the 2 Montanas and 2 Dakotas, the SDSU, NDSU, are in the Mountain West like this, poof, in 4 weeks, like magic? Is it just better? And you can't use any national excuse.
You said outside of ratings, right?
Yeah, you can't say ratings. You can't say
the parity becomes
people that attend the championship. Yeah. You can't say,
then that's an easy yes.
That's a yes.
I'm with Zach.
Yes.
Yeah, you lose. Yeah. You get the parity is better. The fan boards will be a lot quieter though.
Yeah, the fans. You need the fans, man.
Yeah,
he just said to ignore the fans though. So
yeah, the fan. I was going to say the fan boards will be a lot quieter.
You could keep the fans as an excuse for like for home games and stuff like that, but not for the championship matchup. You can't be like, well, no, then we'd have less draws and down.
You will, but that's the problem. You will have less draws. And
Honey Badger's right.
You will have less draws because here's the thing: the game's moving to Nashville. 30,000 seat stadium. The moment you don't have one team from Montana or the Dakotas in that game, you're going to have a 12K attended game, right? And then you come back to the optics, right? The national championship game is going to look freaking empty. Whenever had it been in Frisco, it would have been a a much full stadium, more than half full stadium. And I'm of the belief, Brian disagrees with me. We talked about this. I'm of the belief the national championship game's not coming back to Frisco.
I disagree.
I think they put it out for 2 years because of the renovation. I think it stays in Nashville or goes elsewhere. I don't think it goes back.
It should go to Vegas, man.
Think about how much money them assholes make on every time a ticket changes hands. That should be illegal. But think about how many millions of dollars transpired on Saturday.
Listen, if Nashville does not care about FCS football, let's get real.
That's the thing. Frisco at least balled out for that game, right? You go in there, the businesses are ready. They had flags and stuff. Nashville's not going to give two shits about this game. Like they're going to be like, "Ooh, I bet Belmont basketball's playing today." Like they're not going to care about an FCS game at Vanderbilt's stadium that was a dump and now they're redoing. Like,
why do you all say no to Vegas at once?
Because y'all want to leave. Listen, we'll go to Vegas if the Dakotas and Montana sign a lifetime contract to the FCS. But if y'all leave, what's the point of having it out west? Because
where are we going to play? Sam Boyd? Like that stadium's a dump. We're not going to play at Allegiant. Like where are we going to play?
No chance.
You don't think the FCS can get Allegiant?
No. If they tarp off the top two decks and then half the bottom one, yes.
I guess that's a good point. Like you don't, and that's what people talk about all the time when they talk about like should they expand Washington Grizzly Stadium? It's like I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea because you pack out 25,000. If you make it bigger, would you still pack it out? You know, I think that's a great point about the FCS championship game as well.
I think too, folks look at things like the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta, right, and see how that game is attendance, and I'm like, you can't measure the rest of the FCS against the HBCUs. It's a completely different sort of thing.
Different,
and like so you can't use that as your measuring stick.
You know, you can't. I've been to an HBCU game, and it was by far the coolest game I've ever been to, and the two teams I watched sucked. But guess what? They came out, and there were 20-some thousand people at a regular season game.
The pageantry, the tradition.
Yeah.
You got a Prairie View.
You can put NDSU, SDSU in Nashville this year, and we don't sell 30,000 out. I'm sorry, we don't.
No way.
No. I honestly think you're going to max at 20,000, 22,000 tops.
That's because, Brian, we wouldn't sell NDSU, SDSU wouldn't sell out a January outdoor 30,000 because once it gets cold, Jackrabbit fans don't start going to an outdoor stadium anymore.
So they seem to show up in Frisco there, man.
Matt, you play in a mall, okay? Like, sorry, man. No, you play in a mall, dude. Don't even try to bring it up.
I truly, and I'll take the bet right now with anybody that wants it. It goes back to Frisco when Frisco redoes that stadium.
I'll bet you $5 tacos on that.
I think what we should do is we should just host it at the worst FCS stadium every year. So like take it to Houston Christian,
take it to Homer
back out to CBS. Like that's what we should
take it anywhere in the NEC if you want that.
I mean, if we're gonna take it anywhere, we might as well take it to the Mecca.
Nobody wants to go to Missoula in January.
What are you considering the Mecca? Missoula?
Howard.
I was going to say, so the Montana fans had a team.
Harvard?
Yeah, Howard or Harvard?
Dude, how
Harvard
would
be
to
cool.
Have it in like the Yale Bowl or at Harvard?
Awesome.
That'd be amazing.
Hey, I think it'll be all Ivy teams if they want it that way. So let's not go there.
At least we're not D2 and hosted at the local high school stadium. That's at least
D2 was at in McKinney. D3 is in Houston at Shell Energy Stadium, right? Which is, I mean, they're playing in a soccer stadium that Texas Southern plays at also. And you want to talk about Texas Southern not going to games? Oof, I went to one there one time and it was just
Rev. We're gonna do it. Dude, you did this, Rev. This is you. We're gonna do this now in the off season. And Jim Poppin, you did this. Patrick, you did this. They're all starting to name horrible stadiums. So we're gonna do this in the off season. Look forward to like February. We will do a bracket through the FCS Twitter. We will do vote to get the worst stadium for the championship, and we'll
any stadium on the track has to be on there.
SFA will be number top.
If you play in a dome, then you're automatically the worst.
No, a track can't be the identifier. Because have you been to a Southern game in Baton Rouge? It's fine.
Here's
track can stay.
The stadiums, and I'm gonna crap on my own team. Your stadium has to be at least 75% grass berm. Because SFA stands, Zach. I don't know if you've been to Nacogdoches, but
I haven't.
From the 20, 30, like that way. Like there's like the rest of it's grass the whole way around. Like it's dumb.
I want to say Mercyhurst has like one side stadium and the rest of it's grass.
Indiana State does too. I think theirs is one stands on one side.
Indiana State's like got fence up on theirs.
Who's it? Fordham, that half their field's a baseball stadium, or they're right next to the baseball stadium. Like they could be in there too.
Wait, I'm confused.
Greeley's pretty
Hold on.
bad.
Greeley's pretty
Well,
bad too.
it smells bad there too. Yeah.
Are you guys telling me that these schools own these stadiums? Don't
Yeah.
you all just rent?
No,
doesn't everybody rent here?
Rent
No.
for free or $1 or whatever.
Oh,
the
okay.
price is.
I thought
Yeah,
everybody
no,
rented.
we don't play next to a Macy's like you do. Okay, like we're in our own stadium.
Hey, we get Taco Bell super
Okay,
quick.
like look, our fans aren't going to do Black Friday shopping during playoffs like your fans are. Like it's really easy for North Dakota State to get your shopping done and watch a football game.
You can't shop in the dome during a game. There's no room to move because it's so poorly set up.
So real quick, because I know we're at. I mean, it's been an awesome show, and the Megalive is a shit show and doesn't have a time limit. But let's talk Frisco. Zach, I know you're in because you're actually working and doing shit and a big deal and get to go to all the press dinners and stuff, right? You show up with us for a little bit. You're like, I got to go hang out with the lowly, peasants for a little bit. Well, Zach, I know you'll be there. Chad, I know you're coming. Taco King and Matt are coming. Sam, are you?
I'm not gonna make it, man. I'm not gonna make it to Frisco. Second year in a row, I'm missing out, man. Next year, I'm looking to make it.
You got to do it, man. You got to just come with us. Like that's the thing. Like.
Well, if you're looking for the GOAT of the breakdown of the game, make sure that you guys check out Sam's YouTube video. I saw a few comments in here calling it out, Jim Poppin and a few others. So make sure you guys hit up his channel for sure. It's legit.
Hey, Sam, I got one for you because I did watch your review of the NDSU game. And I actually saw this watching your review. The late hit, and Chad, you can jump in on this with Bach. I actually thought it was targeting after I rewatched it slowly.
I have not yet rewatched it. From what I saw on the replay in the dome, it looked like he had a foot in, but they called
he was absolutely out. That's not the question.
He was 100% out.
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. That's what I'm saying. I could not tell.
In Sam's show, I think they could have hit Bach for targeting. I really do. Would it have mattered? Obviously, no. But I
wasn't even paying attention to that now that you mentioned that. But I think if they would have been looking for it, they probably could have called it.
He had his head down and it with the crown.
Do they call that if he's a running back instead of a quarterback? I've been. I think if it is, right? I agree. But that's what's been happening in the Jackrabbit sphere.
Chad, I'm gonna maybe lean with you a little. I think I said this in our chat with the guys. He was out. There was no question, but I do think him being a quarterback. I
got the call quicker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to say, but what I really saw when I watched Sam's review, because he slowed it down like 4 or 5 times when I watched it, is I really think they looked at it on film. I think it would have got, regardless of what they say it's not a late hit, they would have hit him for targeting.
If it would have been targeting with the review, don't you think they would have hit him with it though?
Well, I don't think they didn't review it.
They didn't review it.
Yeah, I think they weren't looking for targeting, so they didn't. That's why it wasn't called. I think had somebody said, "Wait a minute, now does this need to be looked at for targeting?" I think that probably would have
call that in though. So
they can.
They could have, but they weren't looking for it. They weren't. I mean,
they weren't looking for it.
They weren't looking for it. They weren't looking for it.
They already had the 15-yard flag on it for.
Yeah.
But I think if they would have said, "Was he out?" Like if they look at it that way,
a better question is, would have it mattered if it was targeting?
Yeah, listen, gents.
My outcome would have been the same.
Yeah,
my team,
still the same. Correct.
I don't like targeting in college.
Yeah.
I don't like
my team ended up winning, so I got to say, since my team won, the refs called a pretty good game. It was pretty fair.
Pretty good.
I thought overall they did a good job.
Yep.
So
at least you didn't have Southland refs like the other game.
They let them play that game pretty much completely. And there was a lot of extracurriculars after the plays.
There's a blatant PI on the tight end across the middle.
Oh, that one was bad. Yeah, I did see that.
That was on us, right?
I think that was on
you. Yeah, it was on
SU. I think that was against us. I think I saw that too and went, "Oh, we got away with one there."
Yeah, it was blatant.
Well, I want to go back to what Brian said about being in Nashville. If this year was Nashville and NDSU, SDSU at Nashville,
they're going to bring a lot of fans.
No, time out. This is just hypothetical. Okay. Had that move happened for this year and we both end up there, I don't think we sell more than 23,000.
22,000.
No, we don't sell 30,000. No.
Yeah, there's no way.
No, I 100% agree. Like I think there's a cap, right? Because it's not necessarily to people wanting to go to the game. I mean, Kyler Elliott said it way up there in the comments. Like, he's driving to Salt Lake City from Montana to fly to Dallas because the flights from Montana are stupid right now. Right?
Delta made some flights for the
yeah, and United made one also.
810 minutes.
Yeah, United made some extra ones from Bozeman to Denver to get to Dallas, right? Like, so there's some extra ones, but like I think Fargo ones are dumb too, right? Like,
yeah, they are. They're Matt. I think ours were pretty cheap, weren't they?
Because
we bought ours 4 months ago for like $320. That same flight now is about $850.
Yeah, I was $350, and I got upgraded to first class because they think big guys need bigger seats.
That is not why you got upgraded.
That's not why you got upgraded to first class, man. Brian. We already know why you got upgraded. Hey, but I mean, like that's the thing too, right? So you move to Nashville. I mean, Nashville's honestly harder to get to flight wise than Dallas, right? Because Nashville's not a hub city for any area. Dallas is a hub city for America.
It is for Fargo.
You can probably on Frontier or some shit like that.
Legion.
American.
Legion.
American, Legion.
Well, not American to Nashville. You connect somewhere. Nashville.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were saying Frisco.
Yeah, no. We're talking about Nashville.
Direct flights to Nashville from Fargo.
Yeah, but like for the most part, most airlines don't. You're gonna have to connect through a hub, right? So it's not like it's an easier city to get to. So then you got to look at the flight costs on that too, because you're also, when you're connecting, you're also competing against other people who are going to that city for any other reason, right? And Nashville is a party city. It's I believe it's number 1 and number 2 for fucking bridal showers. Pardon my mouth, for bridal showers.
It's number 1, I bet.
Yeah, for bridal, like for bridal, like the things like that, right? Like, and so I don't think you see a 30,000. You see it full. I don't, just magically putting more seats there isn't going to mean that you're going to get the butts in the seats.
The only way that happens is if we just move the Celebration Bowl there.
Yeah, Celebration Bowl, man. That's a whole different
ball game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So real quick, because I know we're almost at an hour and a half, and while it is a Thursday and some folks are off for the rest of the year, like because they're slackers like myself, other people may have to work. But let's go around real quick. Like, talking Frisco, what are you most excited about this year in Frisco? And Taco King, we're gonna start with you.
Just a trip. Always a fun trip with you guys. But I'm excited back that the King finally returned. You know, it's kind of like the Lion King, you know, getting held up for the first time. We're just going to get held up for the 10th time probably. But, no, other than that, it's always good to connect with people down there. It's good time, fun. You meet great people outside your fan base. I think, I put it on the page, the Gronowski family. I mean, they're awesome. You get to just meet just truly, genuinely good people and good people that are fans of the FCS. So
awesome. Chad, what about you?
Well, I don't got a horse in the race, but I hate the Bison.
Is this your is this your first time going to Frisco without a horse in the race?
Yeah,
like as a neutral fan. I will tell you this, as someone whose team will never make it there, it is a completely different experience to watch it when you don't have anything you're worried about.
I think it'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, I can have Schadenfreude when the Cats beat them by 14 points, and we'll come back to this, and they'll say, gee, Chad was right. And if it doesn't happen, then I'll be like, well, that was that freaking horseshoe that's square up their ass. That's what always happens. So I win either way.
Matt, I'm skipping you for a certain reason. Sam, what are your thoughts on Frisco? What are you looking forward to with this game? Because I know you won't be there. You'll be there in spirit. We'll have a drink for you. You're not there.
I'm looking for a really good game. I don't know, man. I just want to see good ball, man. I just freaking love football so much. It's been an amazing year. I just love watching all the X's and O's and all the execution and what these coaches draw up and, how the defensive coordinators try to stop these offenses. I'm just excited to watch how the game plays out, how NDSU is going to attack Montana State's defense, how Montana State's offense is going to attack NDSU's defense. I would love to see a close game to where Tommy Mellott or Cam Miller has to make a game-winning drive to win it. That would be my dream scenario.
I like that. Zach, what about you? Because I know you're on the, you're working, you're a big deal. You're on the field taking photos and stuff, but
I would say this. I agree with Sam on this. I hope it's a good game. And also, too, I'm just glad that these two teams have such an interesting matchup just with skill positions and the quarterback battle. And then both defenses have been sneaky good, right? Neither one pops off statistically, but both have been really, really good. So I'm just excited. Like you said, I kind of hope Miller or Mellott has to win the game in the final minutes, or we get like a nice, man, there's been a lot of crazy overtime games this year. Man, sign me up for like an 8 overtime national championship game where we're just going back-to-back 2-point conversions. Man, inject that right into my veins. That would be the game right there.
No, I I agree, and I'm going to go real quick, Matt, and I'm going to leave it to you because I want you to plug all the other stuff that's going to be happening. There's a reason. They're strategic for this, but for me, it is not just the game, but it's also the people. You know, there's some great North Dakota State fans I've met and hung out with. Tony Ambrose is a good example. You know, like I'm looking forward to seeing them. Montana State fans, looking forward to seeing y'all. Looking forward to seeing all my podcasting family. You know, we get together once a year. It's not enough. We should do something in the off season where it's not as busy, but seeing everybody. But Matt, you're last because I want you to plug all the stuff that's going on with the FCS Fans Nation show, because I know you've got stuff in the works for the next week.
Holy moly. Well, first off, if you guys aren't following Sam with his Skyline Sports and his recaps, make sure you follow Sam on Twitter because it's incredible. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. You can get all the recaps. If you're not on the Blue Bloods with Zach McKinnell, or if you're not listening to Sam Herder's podcast, which Zach is on, you're crazy not to subscribe to that. We've got a lot of live viewers in here, some unrecognizable names, which is cool. And then if you don't subscribe to Jackrabbit Illustrated or the FCS Fans Nation Network, those guys do a hell of a job, and they do a great job giving unbiased, great information for the Jacks and also around the Valley as well. And the sermon, the preacher, Mr. Dustin Helton, the Rev.
Best intro
Best
ever.
intro ever, right there.
I got to thank Chad for that. Chad made the visuals happen.
So make sure you guys are checking that stuff out. For Frisco, though, it's going to be great. Taco King and I, Chad, a bunch of us are coming in on Friday. But here's exactly what we're going to do. We will always typically meet up with Sam Herder. So if you guys aren't following all of us on Twitter and on Facebook and our pages, we do like a FCS get-together at one of the bars one of the evenings. That's probably Saturday or Sunday night. We also are doing a college game day style show. We're going to do more of actual overlays with clips and information of these teams. That's going to go live on Sunday morning, and we'll play all the way through game time. So you guys can check that out as well. We, of course, have our traditional tailgate spot that we have set up too. We'll bounce between both of the lots. On top of that, we're really going to be hunting down those Montana State bars and the North Dakota State bars and beat bopping everywhere. Best way you can follow us is just by following us on our individual Twitters or the FCS Fans Nation pages. And that way you guys can keep track of us all through all through the Frisco weekend. And the recap will be live here on the YouTube channel. So basically, if you want to be where the fans are with a bunch of people who are drinking beers, having a good time, and honestly, just really genuine, down-to-earth people. And if you're a lost soul down there in Frisco, I mean this. You're down there by yourself. You're with just you and your buddy. You're not sure what to do. Follow us on social media and come find us, because that's what we want. We will only exist for the fans to get together and have a good time. That's the only purpose of this whole thing.
And if you come up to me and say, "Hey, the Rev, I follow you on Twitter," and show me, I will buy you a drink. Just
yeah, you
so
are likely to get many drinks if you come our way. So that's the shameless plugs. Rev, you can take us out, my man.
Do you have a show Sunday?
We will be recording this Sunday, and it will drop Sunday evening for your travel needs down to Frisco.
Perfect. And I know JI's got their shows next week also, right?
Next week also, yep. We're doing
perfect
one mega live with the JI. So
perfect. Well, if you're not following them, you need to do it. Also, to all y'all, thank you for coming on tonight. I know you're all busy doing a bunch of things to get ready, but it is really great to see everybody. Looking forward to everybody in Frisco. And with that, boom. Over.